that I brought 15 men that were just released from prison in the last 30 days there. Wow. And I got a chance to bring them on the platform. Actually, Mav just posted a shot of it, a little video of it. So
I want to welcome you here to another episode on AZI TV, brought to you by the Arizona Informant newspaper, the Arizona Informant podcast, and the AZI4U TV brand. Today, we got some special people on. We got Sean Blackney, who is the artist relationship manager for Food for the Hungry and manage the partnership between Maverick City Music and Food for the Hungry. And also we have Scott Free, who is currently sitting in a hotel room in Vegas, who is on the board of directors for the Maverick City Music Initiative. What is going on, fellas?
We're good, man. How are you doing? Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having us on here, man. First of all, it's an honor.
Man, I'm humbled. I'm humbled, so humble, man. I'm good, man. You know, just we got the call that you guys were coming to do something big here in the city. So yeah, it was an honor to accept it and an honor to be on here with you fellas, man. So before we jump into anything about Maverick City and all that, kind of tell the people who you guys are, where you come from, and how'd you get into the industry that you're in.
Cool. I'll start. I worked in a record label for about 10 years, just doing marketing and sales and international marketing sales and all the stuff. And kind of just ran out of inspiration and kind of decided, I was like, this isn't what I want to be doing with my life. And so I quit that job after 10 years and really just looking for something to do like that I was into. Just try and make the world a better place, tell a better story to my kids about what their dad does. You know, if he's going to be gone from the house and traveling and all the things, like making it worthwhile. So that's how I kind of came across Food for the Hungry through some friends that kind of knew what they were up to. And I was like, that's great. That's cool and all, but like, how does what I do and what my work experience, life experience, how could I bring anything to that? And that's how I found out about kind of like how they do partnerships with child sponsorship, which funds a lot of the programs and work that they do in the 20 countries that they work in. And I was like, wow, okay, so I have these unique relationships in the entertainment industry. I know how all that works. I know how to speak that language. And I know how I can communicate the story that Food for the Hungry is living out over here, and I can connect it with artists who are trying to make a difference in the world in their own way. And if we can get those to work together, that'd be pretty cool. And that's what I've been doing for 8 years, I guess now at Food for the Hungry. So wow. It's kind of a dream. I always tell people it's a dream job. Like, yeah, it's cool. I love it.
I love it. And then my man Scott, man, Mr. Free. How'd you jump into this, man? What'd you do beforehand, man? Let me know about you.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Miami, Florida. I was a knucklehead, got involved in hip hop music at an early age. And, you know, I ended up living the lifestyle of that culture, you know, because for me, it was beyond music. It was a culture that was painted by, you know, these artists that actually discipled me in the context of music. And so it led me to a very empty place in life. And I ran to a city called Atlanta. I knew a friend of mine. All I knew was a friend of mine and the group Outkast. Yeah. and long story short, I realized that what I was running from wasn't necessarily my surroundings. It was inside of me. And in that season, it was about 22 years ago, I had an encounter with the living Jesus. Everything changed for me. And then he sent me on mission a couple of years after that, on mission to go back into, you know, the areas and the spaces and the places that he delivered me from. And so I started a journey to really understand who he was and then who I was as his son. Mm-hmm. And it led me to a life just on mission as a lifestyle. And we started doing different block parties and you know, in some of the projects in Atlanta, which led me to doing a bunch of stuff with musical artists again. And my heart was always to send people on mission. Wow. And we started loving the poor, loving the marginalized. And from that, you know, we launched a ministry called City Takers in the year 2006 that grew. And to this day, it's operating, has its own staff, and we do literally probably about almost every day an outreach of some sort.
Wow.
And from that, I met a young guy named CJ, and God always brought me the young kind of knuckleheads. He became like my son. Moved him into my house for 3 years, and during that season, CJ's older brother, who's Tony Brown, wrote a song. He was in a band called House Fires, wrote a song called Good Good Father.
Wow. Wait, time out.
Yeah.
Time out. I was just listening to that today. Hang on. He was the one that wrote that?
Yeah, CJ's older brother, his name's Tony Brown. So I was, in that season, I was discipling his younger brother, CJ. And Tony Brown wrote that record. So him and his brother have the same mom. And they're both have different dads. Their dads are Black and their mom is white. Mm-hmm. And so with the success of that song, well, let me finish my story and then I'll get into that story.
No problem.
But it's all really a God connect here. And so I went on and just, continued the mission. I'm also a church planter, man. We plant churches in the city of Atlanta, and we're now expanding into other demographics and cities as well. We believe the new wineskin for the church is the missional church. Mm-hmm. The new mega is going to be multiple smalls all around in the context of community, reaching people where they're at, discipling people where they're at. And so that's just my heart. And through CJ, I met his brother, Tony Brown. He wrote that song, Good, Good Father, from a place of not knowing his earthly father. Wow. And God the Father being, good to him in the context of spiritually. And his mom was in and out of prison their whole lives. And so I raised CJ up, ended up marrying CJ to his wife, baptizing him and his whole family. They just had an amazing daughter. She was about 6 months old now. And so CJ went off and is a house parent to inner city school, and he has 4 or 5 kids living in the house, and it's a Maverick City house. I'll get into all those details in a little while. Long story short, Tony Brown wanted to get into the prisons. They launched Maverick City Music, I think late 2018, 2019. They started doing these writing camps, and the heart behind it was, with the success of Good Good Father, it was being sang in a lot of white churches. It was winning Dove Awards and all these other awards in the context of white church. But the Black church, it wasn't winning those awards. And there was and he's seen a bunch of talent that was kind of being marginalized in these smaller Black churches that wasn't being recognized in the white world of Christian music. And so they had this crazy dream of what would it look like if we brought the two worlds together and we started writing music together. Wow. So that's what they started doing in 2019. And then they started to record those little circle sessions, writing camps, writing music together. And in 2020, we all know what happened. COVID hit and the music just started going crazy. You know what I mean? It started going crazy. But in 2009, he had this dream to go into the prisons and then to the communities that have been affected by mass incarceration. And so CJ, his little brother, was like, we need to call Scott. So they called me. I started getting them plugged into some of these places, and then the world shut down. But when the world shut down, really is when the music really started to go viral. And they became the biggest YouTube channel in Christian history. Their YouTube channel is the biggest one in Christian history. And long story short, I ended up getting into our first prison at the end of 2020 or the beginning of 21. And we took Brandon Lake, Naomi, MJ, and the whole band and went in there. And it was as if the tangible Jesus was standing in the prison yard, bro. Not because of the band, but just because of what God was doing in that prison. And I feel like they got a taste of God's heart when they went and did that. And from there, it just kind of skyrocketed. They're like, all right, we're all in. What do we got to do? And so I just started to facilitate mission and ministry in the context of to the least of these. Matthew 25, Jesus says, when I was hungry, did you feed me? When I was naked, did you clothe me? When I was in prison, did you visit me? And the disciples were like, Jesus, what are you talking about? When did we see you hungry? When did we see you naked? When did we see you in prison? And he says, when you've done it unto one of the least of these, you've done it unto me.
Mm.
And so the ministry that we're engaging in is ministry unto the heart of God.
Mm.
And I think anybody who does this type of ministry to the poor, the marginalized, the imprisoned, the orphans, and the widows, you can't walk away from that the same. You can't, because it's God's heart to take care of his children. And so that's what I do. That's what I do now for Maverick. The last album, the Kingdom album, we spent 6 days in a prison in Miami, Florida, which was special to me because that's where I'm from, where I did a lot of dirt. Went back to the city that, I was raised in. And long story short, it took about 6 months of process, because we wanted to go down there and spend 6 days doing these writing sessions. That's how Mav started in the first place. We wanted to write with these men in the prison. And we wanted to create music that was an expression of their heart, their stories, and Mav's as well together. So we spent 5 days in this maximum security prison where most people are serving 25 to life. And we wrote music with them in the prison. And
Wow.
we spent 5 days there. And the last day was a big expression of the music that was created in the prison. And that ended up being the Kingdom album, book 1, and the deluxe version of that. Most of those records were written and sang, and the men in the prison are singing on the record. If you watch some of the videos, you'll see it.
That is crazy. That is crazy, dude.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's the first time in history that's been done. And on top of that, I'll give you a quick story, and I know I'm talking on, and I'll give it back to you. Is when we got to the prison the first day, the warden came up to me. His name's Jose Colon, and he said, "What are y'all doing?" Because we got permission from the Department of Corrections, so it was like permission from above his head. So we come in, and they were like, "What are y'all doing?" And they kind of knew what we were doing, but they kind of didn't. We said, "Well, we're gonna do these writing sessions, and every day we're gonna sing music together with the inmates or with the men." And long story short, he was like, "Well, this is a Christian event?" I said, "Yeah, it's a Christian event." And he says, "Okay," because he knew at the last day we were going to try to do it in the yard because we wanted it to be a bigger event. There was 1,400 men in this facility. And he says, "Well, it's a Christian event. We've had all the different ministries here, and I'm not going to name all the bigger Christian prison ministries." And he says, "Max you're going to have is 200 people because it's a Christian event. And only the Christians are going to come to this event. So 200. And he says, "Why don't you just do it inside? Because if we do it outside, it's going to be, a lot on his team and the guards." And he's like, "Just do it inside. 200 people max." I said, "Okay, we're here to serve you." You know what I mean? I wasn't trying to make a big deal of it. I said, this is your facility. You know more than I know. So again, we're there 5 days. The first day we had the prison worship band with us, which was about 15 people. And they're there writing music with the team, and they were loving it. And, we did a little worship thing right in the middle. We were there from about 12 to 5 every day. The second day, 15 people doubled to about 30 to 40 people. The third day, we had like 125 people. The fourth day, we had people to where the room was so full that we couldn't, we were like, all right, what do we do with 250 people? How do we write music with 250 people? The warden came back to me on a Thursday. Now, remember, he told us to do everything inside. Saturday was the big thing that we wanted to do in the yard. And he came to me, he said, "Scott," he's like, "listen to me." He's like, "The word has gotten around the prison about what you guys are doing." And I'm like, "Well, I tried to tell you what we were going to do. We're just doing what we said we were going to do." And he was like, "Listen," he's like, "I know I told you guys to do it inside, but would you reconsider doing it outside on Saturday?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, we want to do it outside anyways." He was like, "Please, because if I have to turn people away on Saturday, when you guys leave, I'm going to have a problem." He's like, "Guys will start flooding the cells, and you know what I mean?" He's like, "This place is going to go crazy if they're not allowed to come." And I said, "Yes, I'll make it happen." And so long story short, we did a lot of the music videos, you'll see that the outdoor stuff, the album cover, you'll see it's the men on the prison yard. 1,300 men out of 1,400 people showed up on the prison yard. It's one of the biggest prison events in U.S. history.
Golly, man.
And so I say all that to say that God is highlighting the poor, the marginalized, and the imprisoned And what it's doing right now, even beyond like our partnership with Food for the Hungry, is it's being a catalyst to the church embodying the heart of God. And it's causing the church to say, you know what are we doing? I want to get involved in Food for the Hungry. I want to get involved in, local missions. I want to get involved, in my city, in being the hands and feet of Jesus and being the answer to a dying and broken world.
Wow, that's incredible, bro. Like that whole story you got, I'm like, at all.
It is, and literally, it was all God. Like, even to do what we did in that prison, and to film, record, to have the men's voices on the album, like it's just all God. Because we got so many no, and it was like the Lord just helped make it happen.
Hey, his word says, man, he'll open up doors that no man can close. So it may look like a no, and this is even confirmation to me, where it may look like a no to a human eye, but to God, it's almost like, dude, I'm gonna push so far past your no.
Yeah.
It's so hungry, man. So, dude, I could go on all day on this, but how did this relationship start between Maverick City and Food for the Hungry? Like, how did that begin?
I mean, honestly, it's a lot of how most of, artist partnerships happen in this industry, and kind of in the touring and in, partnership is somebody knows somebody, and you get a call and you're like, hey, we're looking to get out on the road, and we're looking to, take a nonprofit out on the road with and share kind of their mission and their heart with our audience. And so I got a call one day, and it was like, hey, would Food for the Hungry be interested in, doing something with Maverick City? And this is like, again, it's 2020, I guess, 2021. Yeah. They're just blowing up. So the immediate response is, yeah, absolutely, we'd love to be a part of that. And then the more conversations that I had with their team, I just got more excited about it, because you see a shared heart and a shared vision for the marginalized in those communities. And it was real, because a lot of times you can work with an artist that just wants to do some good in an abstract way. They're just like, hey, I trust that what you're doing. But to partner with artists that, like, that's what they're about in their day-to-day also, and they're just like, we want everything to be aligned. So if we're going to bring somebody out on tour, we want to be aligned, like our hearts want to be aligned with that as well. So that was really cool. Learning how we kind of like brought their initiative into it was even more beautiful, because I kind of like poking around whenever I meet somebody new, or I'm starting to work on a new partnership, I get on the Googles and I see this initiative, and I'm like, okay, this is cool. Because like, ever since I've been working at Food for Hungry, when I've gone to visit the countries and the communities that we work in, it's kind of a running joke. I always say, it's like what we're doing there is, it feels exotic, and everybody's like, oh, you're working in all these countries. I'm like, what we're doing there is literally what every community around the world needs, including here at home. I was talking to a mentor when I first took the job, and I was explaining kind of like what we do in those communities. He's like, we could use some of that in North Nashville. And I was like, exactly. So to see some of like how, and that's the thing, is like Food for the Hungry's view of poverty is really holistic, and we understand that it's complex, and poverty isn't just a lack of things. It's not just a lack of physical needs, it's broken relationships. And so when we go into communities, we're hoping to address all of those broken relationships, and helping communities, be a part of their own, development, and just walking alongside them. So to see kind of what they were already starting to do in Maverick City Initiative, and seeing how that mirrored the work that was being done. Like when I hear Scott talk about all they're doing, these are the same conversations that I'm privileged to sit in, in Guatemala or in Rwanda or in Uganda or in Vietnam. It's people that are trying to love each other and love on these communities and help each other lift themselves out of sometimes it's generational poverty. It's just listening. It's just, this is the way it's been, and this is the way it's always been, and this is the way it's always going to be. And just trying to walk with people and learning together that it doesn't have to be that way. Wow. And just sharing hope. And so when you've witnessed that so much, you can recognize that really quickly, that DNA in other people. And so that was what was really exciting to see, that kind of in Mav City and what they were doing with the initiative. And so we went on tour with them last fall. And kind of, that was, I guess, our first like dipping our toe in the water of like, how can we partner together in a way and give back in the communities that we're touring in. And then we just took another step just to make that, to solidify more of a bond and more of a true partnership going forward. And that's kind of been what we've been doing out on this tour, is just really trying to connect those dots. And I always love people just like, just to jump off of what Scott was saying, just like encouraging, the local church here. It's not an uncommon question to get when I'm out at shows and I get at the booth and someone talks about like, hey, well, what about kids here? What are you guys doing anything here? And I always like to tell people, I was like, sponsoring a child is just, it's something you can do because out of the abundance that you have. But it should by no means absolve you of your responsibility that you have to your own community here. And so if you're plugged into a local church, I'm sure they're doing something for the kids here. And I would encourage you to be a part of it. Because all you're doing at the end of the day is just robbing yourself of something that God's trying to do in you. And so this has just been like, as long as I've worked here, this is the first time we've really in a big way been able to partner with a domestic organization that's also doing good work that is so aligned with our heartbeat and what we're doing. So it's been really exciting.
I love it. I love it. So just a little background that I know on Maverick City, and maybe Scott, you can kind of piggyback off over and take us deeper into it. But from the information that I got, Maverick City was online, like you guys said, just blazing it on social media, killing it. And then they caught the eye of one particular individual who actually stepped out and connected with them, which was Kirk Franklin. Kurt was like, listen, man, you guys are dope, communication. And he, before you know it, they're on tour together and just blazing the city with just a gift that they have, man. And Scott, I don't know if you want to dive a little bit deeper into it, but that's just the information that I know that I received as well.
Yeah, well, Mav, Mav last year, the tour that Sean was just talking about, they had 10 dates. Well, first of all, I think they had 30 dates or so, and they were all churches. And this was their first tour that they did, by the way, last fall.
Wow.
They were all churches. And they started to sell so many tickets that they had to move 10 of the dates in 10 major cities to arenas. So their first tour on their own, they did 10 arena dates. And
which is just unheard of. Like that doesn't happen.
It's crazy. I'm an artist myself, and I've never done that in my life.
It really never happens. And it's funny because I just put I'm going to read it actually, a definition of Maverick. So let me go back a little bit. The name itself, Mavericks are visionaries who want to achieve what's never been achieved before. They're not fans of the status quo and will shake things up. Mavericks tend to be innovative, influential, daring, and direct, with a remarkable high tolerance for taking chances. And honestly, from the very beginning of Maverick City Music, that's exactly who we all are as a team, as a family. And and again, the whole heart behind it was to highlight marginalized voices. Wow. What nobody could do on their own, together nothing would be impossible for them. And so they just started to dream, and they started to break rules, maybe some religious systematic rules.
I love it.
And even the whole circle thing, like, Like, if you look at the early original videos, they would just get in a circle which was powerful because it was like, hey, we in this together. It wasn't like an audience and a stage. And, you know, unfortunately, when you do arenas, you kind of have to have that. But even in the arena shows, they bring it to the middle and they put a little circle and they invite the crowd to be a part of the circle. And if you look in the circle, it's a diverse group of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's white, there's black, there's Indian, there's everybody in this circle. And so I think what the original videos did is everybody seen themselves in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and there was no stages originally. It was like, hey, well, let's gather together and let's worship together, you know, around the person of Jesus. And so I think early on, God breathed on it, and it was just for a time such as this moment, and anointed it, and it went crazy. And so then I think God started to bring other people in and other voices in, and they were able to write with a bunch of amazing anointed worship leaders and ministers of the gospel. And I think the Kirk thing is, I think they all, number one, respected Kirk, admired Kirk, and loved Kirk and loved his music and grew up listening to his music. So I think for all of the artists, and I can't speak for them, but this is my interpretation of it, they all were like, oh my God, like we would love to work with Kirk Franklin. You know what I mean? And I think as God opened that door, they dreamed together of like, hey, what would it look like if we, you know, went on tour together? And even Kirk in some of the shows was like, I've never played arenas this big. Like he was saying that. And they do a really special moment in the middle where they honor Kirk Franklin. Wow. And he played some of his old music. And it's just an amazing time. But to say all that to say, like, I believe it's multi-generational. Maverick City. It's multicultural. Yeah. It's multi-racism, racial, and it's multi even economic. You know, people like you got poor people, you got people coming out of prison, you got, you know, CEOs of companies, you got everybody is there, and it's literally like it's a glimpse of heaven. And most churches can't do what Maverick is doing on the daily. I'm not saying that we should try to be like Maverick, but I believe it's a glimpse of what the kingdom really looks like.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Like, even as you guys talk, man, I'm getting visions and stuff to do, man. Like, I love the initiative. I love just the heart, the desire not to be famous, but to make him famous. You know what I mean? And I do, like, I'm so, it's incredible.
And I'll say this to kind of piggyback on what Sean said. I think our partnership, it just 100% aligns because it's really the same mission. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, like let's just really reach people. Let's just really meet tangible needs. Let's just really, you know what I mean, provide for the poor. And our heart is that we want to help people feel seen, heard, empowered to live out their God-given purpose. I love it. And whatever we can do to do that, you know what I mean, we want to do that. And we believe that everyone, whether rich, poor, black, white, has a story. And that story deserves to be heard, and they have a purpose that is worth pursuing. And a lot of times in marginalized communities or marginalized people groups, they don't feel like nobody hears them. Therefore, they don't feel like nobody sees them. Therefore, they don't feel like they really have a purpose. And so we just want to remind people that they're seen, they're heard, and we want to prove to them that they are. That's why I brought those guys up on stage last night. We had 15 men, literally just got out of prison. I brought them up on the platform to celebrate them, to remind them that they're worthy. You know what I mean? That they're worthy. And to remind the church that we have an obligation to visit the prisoners.
Dude, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, they got off the platform crying. Some of them were weeping. You know, one guy was 46 years old. He says it's his first concert he's ever been to because he got locked up when he was 17.
And that's so, Sean, I mean, in hearing just the stuff the partners, like one of your partners is doing, man, like, how do you feel? Like, does that empower you even more to step out? I heard one of my favorite artists, Andy Mineo, said he put out an album saying that I want this album to make you feel uncomfortable. I want the comfortable to feel uncomfortable. So, you know, in him saying all this, like, how do you feel, man? Like, you know, in this mission?
Yeah, I feel like our end goal is just to, in these nights and in these partnerships and when we go on tour with artists, is to really share a story of hope. with everybody in the room.
Okay.
Is that that God's moving in the world, and our portion of that night is really just an invitation to be a part of what he's doing.
Okay.
So like I love Andy. I love how he puts that, making people uncomfortable. I look at it a way as just really inviting people into kingdom work. You know, if we're going to be partners, if Jesus has invited us into building his kingdom and having, you know, bringing the kingdom of heaven here on earth as it is in heaven, then that's what we get to be a part of. That's a privilege. And so a lot of times we can see that as like, if helping out the poor and doing this or that or donating, that's us doing something, but it's real, like God will do the work with or without us. It's a privilege to be invited into it.
Yeah.
So I always talk to our speakers and our artists when they're out there, you just really, there's no pressure to convince somebody to do something. You're just inviting them into a gift.
Wow.
And it's going to do more for them than they realize even. It's funny, I was on a trip to Manila when I first started working at Food for Hungry, and it was, to this day, is probably one of the hardest trips I've taken. Just the things I saw and experienced and witnessed there. But while I was there, the Pope Francis was about to make his first trip of any pope to Manila, to the Philippines in decades. And I was just standing on the side of the road one day, and there was like a newspaper there, and there was an English portion of it. And I just was kind of skimming because like the city was crazy just in anticipation of his visit.
Right.
And there was a quote where he was talking about they were concerned with like the amount of poverty in Manila and securing the parade routes and all the things. And they were asking the Pope if they should move things around or all the, and he had a quote. And he said, "We can see him," meaning Jesus, "in the faces of our brothers and sisters, especially the poor, the sick, the imprisoned, the refugees. They are the living flesh of the suffering Christ and the visible image of an invisible God." And from that, like that was 7 years ago. I typed that up on my phone, and I look back at it all the time, because that is in essence what we're doing. It's like, if you as a churchgoer in a comfortable suburb in the United States of America, if you are looking for an encounter with Christ, look no further than your neighbors, look no further than your own community to meet him in the faces of the poor, the marginalized, the imprisoned. Those are Jesus's words.
Wow.
You know, Matthew 25, Scott talked about it earlier. It's like, you know, when have we ever done that for you? When have we clothed you? When have we fed you? When you clothed the naked, when you fed the poor, when you visited me in prison. So if you want to have an encounter with Christ, there you go. So I'm not special. Scott's not special. It doesn't take anything. It's like, I count it a privilege to be able to work alongside people that have the same heartbeat, have the same mission. And that mission just being inviting people into this work. It's a privilege.
Wow.
It's incredible.
It's humbling just to hear you guys talk about this, man. There's so much going through my mind right now. It's crazy. One of my heart's desires, man, because I don't want to hold you guys too long, but one of my heart's desires is, I love adults. I love, you know, grown people. They're cool, but my heart's desire is the youth in college. And I've always wanted to go inside of the juvenile facilities and just be in there, not with no title, but just to love on them. Because they're in there and they feel alone. They don't feel like nobody's with them. They don't feel like nobody's there for them. And we had this thing going where we're all just going to write letters and send them in there, not addressing it to a single person, but just addressing it to you. And, you know, again, COVID hit, things happened, but we still want to do it again. So I humbly appreciate you guys' desire, your heart, and what you're doing in the community and just in the nation, man. It takes people like you guys to inspire people like us to continually put that footwork in, man. So if people wanted to connect with you, grow with you, build with you, talk to you in any way, shape, or form, man, or just, you know, partner with you, how would they do it?
I mean, for Food for the Hungry, if you want to learn more about what we're doing and how you can be a part of it in a number of ways. fh.org, F as in food, H as in hungry.org. But I would also just encourage people to to realize that there's nothing stopping you from doing exactly what you said, what's in your heart. Find like-minded people in your own community, in your local church, that can come alongside you, and or if it's just you yourself. But we can all be a blessing to someone in our community, and we can all be a light for someone and that desperately needs it. And we can do that through organizations, through giving, through donorship. But I think we're first called to our street, our block, our neighborhood, and everything else should flow out from that. As just overflow.
I love it. What about you, Big Scott?
Yeah, so people connect with us. Our website is mcminitiative.com, stands for Maverick City Music Initiative. You could also get through it through Maverick City website as well. We're on all social media platforms. And then my personal, if somebody want to get in touch with me, you reach me on Instagram at I am Scott Free. And then that's Facebook, Twitter. I even got a TikTok, believe it or not.
I love it. Hey, so just I know I didn't really plug it in, but Maverick City is here in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes.
Tonight. At the Pavilion. It's an outside concert. I was kind of looking at the weather outside, and I'm hoping that it'll still be going on because it's kind of cloudy, a little rain been dropping, but they're here tonight. So is there tickets still available for people to go to the concert? Is there tickets still available for people to go check it out?
There are tickets. It's just at Ticketmaster.com. It's real simple to grab them. It's gonna, trust me, it's probably the best concert. I'm saying I've been to a million concerts, but it probably is the best concert I've ever been to in my life. Jesus is glorified. Our brother Anthony Evans comes out right in the middle, representing food for the hungry. He's an amazing orator. He's just the real deal. And Kirk Franklin, Maverick City Music. And I want to tell, if you do come, make sure you stay to the end. The end is the best part.
Wow.
I mean, it's powerful.
Wow. I'm encouraged. Well, again, man, listen, I thank you guys so much for jumping on here.
Thank you.
Taking the time out to talk to us. Your stories are incredible. Your mission is powerful, and just your hearts in a personal way. I've connected to you guys just because of your desire to just want to seek and save the lost. Like you were saying in Matthew 25, but Jesus told his disciples in Matthew 8 to go seek and save the lost, go out, save people, go out, do this, go out, do that. He said, I give you authority to go out here and heal the sick, to cleanse those who have leprosies, to raise the dead. He's given them authority. So the fact that you guys walk in that authority, you guys walk in those principles, you guys walk in that faith is encouraging to me, man. So I thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And Elise, I thank you too. I know you're in the background, not doing nothing, but I'm humbled, man. I appreciate you again. I would love to stay connected with you guys. So maybe, off camera, we can kind of talk about how we can stay connected and just, break bread and chop it with one another and build community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Darnell.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you,
Darnell, man.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
All right.
Guys. Thank y'all so much for having us. Appreciate you guys.
Hey, what's going down, everybody? It's your boy Darnell, and I want to thank you so much for coming on here and watching the interview. If you can, please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Arizona Informant TV, where you will get all the latest content, all the updated information, and all the latest news. So again, please subscribe to the channel, and we will see you soon.